Hey, welcome to today's episode of Heroes and Videos. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're starting a series called Mighty Thor Thursdays, where we'll be talking about Thor things, anything Thor related, from comic books to the movies, etc. Today we're going to be looking at some Thor comics in my personal collection. I've got Thor facing off with Hercules here in the background, old and new, as well as Thor up on the shelf, and LA Ram Santa standing in for Odin for full support. If you listen to the end of the video, you'll see the first, or the earliest Thor, I guess, the oldest Thor that I have in my collection. And there's going to be a little heartbreak on the way where I talk a little bit about something I'm afraid a lot of us have experienced as comic collectors as kids. So without further ado, let's get into it. Would love it if you subscribe to the channel, hit notifications, but let's get right to it. The first up is Thor 168. This is obviously with Galactus on the cover there. This is the origin of Galactus. So if you're curious about the origin of the antagonist in Fantastic Four First Steps, this is the issue where do you find out, or at least this one and the next one. Galactus basically tells his origin to Thor. Just a great Kirby drawn book. Stan Lee doing the writing on this. Very dynamic cover. Kind of, the copy's a little beat up, but I enjoy it. So Thor 168. Marvel figured out early on that Galactus needed somebody fairly powerful to face off against. So who could you think of better than the God of Thunder? Next up, speaking of Fantastic Four First Steps, another character from that movie, the Norrin Radd iteration here appearing in Thor 193. Just great cover. Thor doing that thing where he swings the hammer around. It's not the last time you're going to see that in this video. This was the month that Marvel went double size. It's a quarter. Jerry Conway was writing the book at this point, and John Buscema was doing the art, which is just beautiful, just amazing. He really excelled at that. This is a great companion piece if you have Silver Surfer number 4. Not quite as striking a cover as that, but it's just two issues early on around the same time with just two very powerful characters meeting. Again, this copy is a little beaten up. I did not buy this one off the stands, but it was worn when I got it, but I love that book. It's a great book. Now onto the heartbreaking part of our story. I don't know about current generations. My kids never had to go through this, but folks from my generation, I think everybody's got the story about their mom throwing out their comics. Well, I'm no different. I had a stack of comic books, I don't know, let's say about yay high, and that I had in a paper bag, like a grocery bag, because they fit very well in the grocery bag. We didn't have comic boxes back then in the early 70s. This was, I think, first grade through about second or third grade. The comic books that I bought, that collection ended up getting thrown out. Included in that collection was Amazing Spider-Man 100, Amazing Spider-Man 121. I know, right? I've since replaced those books in my collection, but those were some of the books that went out, as was this comic. Thor 205, great story with Mephisto. I read this book to death as a kid, and this is one obviously that I picked up since. I just loved it. It was the first issue of Thor that I bought off the stands. I don't know about you guys, but I remember often the first issue of a title that I picked up off the stands. Back there it was a spinner rack. We didn't have comic shops necessarily, and then I also remember the first comic I bought where I began regularly collecting the title. So whereas this is the first issue I picked up of Thor off the stands, it wasn't when I started regularly reading the book. I do love the fact, though, great cover, dynamic cover with Mephisto and Thor's allies lording over him. Also, Marvel, I think, also figured out that Thor makes a great stand-in for the Surfer. Mephisto was created to be an antagonist for the Silver Surfer. Stan wasn't really crazy. Stan Lee wasn't crazy about having other folks write the Surfer. So I feel like Jerry Conway and Thor there realized that Thor made a great foil for Mephisto, or vice versa. Now, I mentioned the first book that I purchased off the stands of this title. This is the first book that I picked up, or the first Thor I picked up when I started reading the book regularly. So 218 and up is pretty much where my Thor collection started. So back then, without comic shops, you'd have a hole here and there because if you didn't get the book, or the 7-Eleven or the Save-A-Lot didn't get the book, you didn't get the book. This is Thor 218. Thor's doing that twirling the hammer thing again, which apparently works even against blasters. This book always holds a special place in my heart just because it's when I began regularly reading the title. Thor's kind of doing a space adventure here. And it leads into eventually one of the books you see behind me here, which may show up in another Mighty Thor Thursday. Next up, jumping up to the Simonson run. Talked about Walt Simonson in some recent videos. This is Thor 359. Just a great cover with Thor. I don't know if this is the bowing before bad guys week. Coincidentally, I hadn't thought about that when I had this in the Mephisto cover. We've got Loki lording over Thor. I'm going to guess that's Lorelei, the Enchantress's sister there, who has probably bewitched them both, or certainly the Thunder God. But just part of Walt Simonson's just incredible run on Thor. That was just really great book. Just spectacular in the grandeur of the book. He's figured out that these were gods, these were myths, and they make for great stories, and he told them as such. Speaking of great runs, Ron Frenz, talked about Ron Frenz in the past, just an amazing artist. Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz did a great run on Amazing Spider-Man. They did a great run on Mighty Thor as well. It was just good, fun comics. If you want it, these aren't that expensive. You just pick them up at any comic shop pretty much in the back issues, but they're just great run. Here we've got Mighty Thor 409, Hercules and Thor in the Trapped in the Hourglass, also a great Doctor Doom cover. CLZ says that Mike Mignola did the the art for this. That's not entirely true. There's a 5-page backup in the book that Mike Mignola did the art for, and it's good, it's cute. But this is again Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz doing this. What I loved about this title and with when DeFalco and Frenz were doing it, you just never knew who was going to pop up. Hercules and Doom are in this one. I think in an issue or two, it's She-Hulk shows up, and then 2 issues after that, he's fighting the Juggernaut, and the New Warriors debut. So it was just like month to month, you just had no idea what was going to happen in that title. Just good fun comics. So curious where folks file their annuals, like how you file your books, your comics. So please let me know in the comments below. I usually put the annuals at the end of a character's run or a title's run, and I've started doing this where comics now, particularly with Marvel, have multiple volumes. We're going to talk about the Immortal Thor here in a minute, where they'll have that legacy numbering, or we didn't call it legacy numbering, then it was the only numbering, and then a book might restart with a number 1. I file the titles at the annuals, I found the annuals, I put them at the end of the first volume's run, if that makes sense. Unless it's a particular, say, Immortal Thor has an annual, that would go at the end of that volume's run, if that makes any sense at all. So I'm curious if you guys do the same thing. Please let me know. This is an annual, obviously a Thor annual number 6 with the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's the old school Guardians. You do see Yondu there, blue with the red fin. Just a great story where Thor goes into the future and meets the 30th century iteration, the original iteration, if you will. Though I guess technically they're not, if the current one happened in the 20th century or 21st century. But it's just a great story. What makes this book somewhat stand out is it's the first appearance of Michael Korvac, the Michael from the Korvac saga. He's the gentleman you see in the upper corner just below the R. See if I can get him a little closer for you. The guy in purple, that's not coming out too well. That's got that machine half for his bottom half. He's Korvac here, becomes Michael in that Avengers saga, or just prior to it, and that's kind of what this book's known for. That's a great, good, fun story with Thor meeting up with the Guardians. Next up, we've just got a couple more. I mentioned Immortal Thor. Here's Alex Ross, does some phenomenal covers for them. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful cover. One thing I love about this, I've talked about how much I really enjoy covers with different perspectives. There's so much going on here. I don't know. I had this comic for months before I realized what was going on the cover. They're in a shooting range if you look at it. So see the target over on the side above the guy that looks like Wonder Man, but it's not. You've got Radioactive Man there in green. He'd been using his finger, I guess, as a gun to shoot through a target that looks like Thor, and they're pulling that back to them. So I just love that perspective. Though it took me forever to realize they're at a shooting range, and just like that Lethal Weapon scene with Danny Glover and Mel Gibson at the target range with the targets, how they move towards you or away from you. That's what's going on there. And then one more Immortal Thor cover where he's just chilling. Thor's just chilling deep in thought. Can't say enough about this book. Immortal Thor, it's getting ready, I think, to change up. They're going to do a new volume or a new book. I want to say it's coming to a close here with issue 25 or 26, which could be coming out any day now. And if you're not reading this book, you should be. It's just, again, it's not earth-shattering, though the stakes do seem to be pretty high. It's just really good fun. Month to month, you never know what's going to happen next, and it's got weight to it, like the Simonson run did. It's really heady stuff. So last up is that my oldest Thor comic. It's not technically a Thor comic. It's Journey into Mystery 117. You see Thor there rushing into battle against these troops, I want to say in a foreign country. It's the first appearance of the Odin sword, which it's odd that that weapons get first appearances, but it is. It's obviously a pretty beaten up copy. I always wanted to have some Journey into Mystery books in my collection, and this is the only one I have at this point. I hope to rectify that over the next few years, but we will see. But that is it, the oldest Thor in my collection. Let me know what you thought of Mighty Thor Thursday, kind of workshopping that name. So if you have other suggestions, please put that in the comments. As always, I've enjoyed having you. Thanks for watching. Keep reading comics, keep going to see movies in theaters, and be kind to each other.